Alamin natin ang mga programa at aktibidades ng mga kinatawan sa pamumuno ni Speaker Ferdinand Martin FMR Romualdez, Kamara, House of the People. Tuwing Sabado, alas 6 hanggang alas 7 ng umaga at replays tuwing Linggo, alas 6 hanggang alas 7 ng gabi. Dito lang sa FMR Quezon 94.3, ang inyong favorite music radio.
Madam Speaker, I move that we resume consideration on House Bill 8980 and request that the Secretary General read the title of the bill.
The Secretary General is directed to read the title of the measure.
House Bill number 8980, an act appropriating funds for the operation of the government of the Republic of the Philippines from January 1 to December 31, 2024.
Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, the parliamentary status of the bill is that it is in the period of sponsorship and debate. With the consent of the House, I move that we simultaneously proceed with the interpellations on the proposed budget of the Department of Budget and Management and the lump sum funds.
There is a motion. Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion is approved. Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, may we acknowledge the presence of the heads and officials from the Department of Budget and Management, namely Secretary Amina Pangandaman, USEC Janet Abuel, USEC Wilford Will Wong, USEC Goddess Hope Libiran, USEC Maria Francesca del Rosario, USEC Joselito Basilio, USEC Rowena Candice Ruiz, and USEC Dennis Santiago.
We acknowledge the presence of the heads and officials from the Department of Budget and Management, headed by Secretary Amina Pangandaman. Welcome to the House of Representatives. Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move that we recognize Representative Bingo Matugas of the 1st District of Surigao del Norte, Vice Chairperson of the Committee on Appropriations, to answer questions on the proposed budget of the Department of Budget and Management and the lump sum funds.
The Honorable Bingo Matugas is recognized for his interpellation, for his sponsorship.
Magandang gabi po sa Madam Speaker, sa lahat ng colleagues. This representation is now ready to answer the interpellations from our colleagues for the budget of DBM and the lump sum funds.
Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move that we recognize Representative Arlene Brosas of the Gabriela Party List for her interpellation.
The Honorable Arlene Brosas is recognized for her interpellation.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, will the good sponsor yield to some questions, Madam Speaker?
Gladly, Madam Speaker, Your Honor.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, kanina po nakakuha tayo ng SARO mula sa Office of the Vice President. We would like to clarify, yung ilang mga nakalagay dito sa SARO na ito, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, for example, yung nakalagay dito, ang purpose ay to cover financial assistance, subsidy, and confidential fund per Office of the President approval, dated November 28, 2022. Tama po ba ito?
Madam Speaker, Your Honor, the particulars of the special allotment release order are first, the general management and supervision and maintenance and other operating expenses covering 96 million, and the good governance program in which good governance engagement and social service projects for about 125 million. So basically po, tama po yung sinasabi ninyo,
Yes,
Your
Mr.
Honor.
Speaker. Ang tanong ko po dito, Mr. Speaker, bakit nasa general, di ba, sa particulars, MOP PAP code particulars. Sa particulars po, under sa General Administration and Support, tapos General Management and Supervision, 96,424,000, right? Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker.
Correct, Madam Speaker, Your Honor.
Madam Speaker, hindi po ba ang General Management and Supervision ay hindi financial assistance?
Madam Speaker, Your Honor, yung financial assistance, if I'm correct, Madam Speaker, Your Honor, is ito po yung nasa good governance engagement and social service projects, Madam Speaker, Your Honor.
Madam Speaker, can you read yung particulars noon at saka yung amount?
Which part, Madam Speaker, Your Honor?
Sa good governance, Madam Speaker, ang nakalagay kasi, good governance, engagement, and social service projects.
It
That is
amount-
125 million, Madam Speaker. Hindi ba ito yung under the confidential fund, Madam Speaker? Kasi yan yung nakalagay doon eh. Purpose to cover financial assistance, subsidy, and confidential fund. Well, I believe kasi ang report sa atin, 125 million. Yun yung nasa confidential fund. So there's something wrong with the SARO, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, Your Honor, tama po. Tama po yung sinabi nyo, yung good governance, engagement, social services projects, ay yun din po yung confidential funds na sinasabi nyo na 125 million.
So, Madam Speaker, asan dito yung financial assistance? Hindi naman pwedeng general management and supervision yon, Madam Speaker. Kasi general management and supervision, sa pagkakaalam ko, opisina, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, Your Honor, yung financial assistance po is in the nature of social service projects. So, it's an activity that belongs to the account, no? I mean, in a perspective of accounting, itong account na to covers all social service projects, which includes yung mga particulars like financial assistance. Kung sabihin natin yung details, kasama na po doon yung mga AICs, mga medical assistance program. Because they are in the nature of a social service projects, Madam Speaker, Your Honor.
Are you saying, Madam Speaker, na ang general management and supervision ngayon ay financial assistance subsidy na, Madam Speaker?
Madam Speaker, Your Honor, if you look at the SARO, there are two major accounts. The General Administration and Support, which contains 96 million. Then there's another account under operations, which is good governance. So hindi po sila magkapareho. Yung General Administration, saka yung good governance. Madam Speaker, with due respect, Madam Speaker, Your Honor.
So, Madam Speaker, pag in-add up itong 96 plus 96 plus 125, magtototal siya ng magkano po?
221.424 million po.
So different itong general management and supervision, tapos yung MOOE expenses, yan ba yung sinasabi ninyo?
Yes po, Madam Speaker, Your
So
Honor.
yun yung under sa financial subsidy, Madam Speaker. Just clarificatory lang po, Madam Speaker.
Yes, yung financial subsidy or financial assistance ay na covered po siya doon sa account ng good governance, engagement, and social service projects. Madam Speaker, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you, Madam Speaker. I had to clarify that kasi nasa under nga siya ng ganun, ano, dalawang line, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, kaugnay naman po sa taon-taon na fund transfer ng Office of the President para sa National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict, yung NTF-ELCAC Secretariat, as reflected in the COA's annual audit since 2020. Now, can the good sponsor confirm these fund transfers from the Office of the President to the NSC or the National Security Council for the NTF-ELCAC? Kasi po meron po kaming tala dito, 42.29 million noong 2019, noong 2020, 37.97 million, noong 2021, 52.99 million, 2022, 19.64 million. So can you confirm this, Madam Speaker?
Madam Speaker, may I ask for 1 minute suspension to validate the numbers?
Session suspended.
Madam
Session resumed.
First, yung question ng transfer, wala pong transfer, no? As per records from DBM, ang budget po ng NTF-ELCAC ay nakalodge na po sa different offices. Meron po the OP, sa DAR, sa DA, sa DILG, sa DND, and DSWD, DOLE, NICA, NSC. Yun po, Madam Speaker, Your Honor.
Madam Speaker, 2019, meron pong fund transfer to NSC per MOA dated June 14, 2019. Noong 2020, may fund transfer to NSC per MOA dated March 16, 2020. Meron din pong fund transfer to NSC as per MOA entered between OP and NSC dated April 13, 2021. Yan po yung first tranche noong March 22, 2021 at second tranche noong October 5, 2021. Meron ding November 3, 2021 fund transfer to NSC as per MOA entered between OP and NSC dated October 29, 2021. And lastly, meron pong October 21, 2022 fund transfer to NSC as per MOA entered between OP and NSC dated October 21, 2022.
Madam Speaker, Your Honor, unfortunately, with regards to 2019 information that you are saying, hindi po dala yung record. So if Your Honor will allow, magsasubmit po ang ating Department of Budget and Management ng records. No? Yeah, we will get from the implementing agencies yung mga records na yon para makita nyo po yung records na yun, Madam Speaker, Your Honor.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, tinatanong po natin to sa mga fund transfer na ito mula sa regular na pondo ng isang ahensya, papunta sa isang ahensya. Ang tanong po natin dito, ano yung legal at constitutional na batayan nito, Madam Speaker?
Madam Speaker, Your Honor.
Regular agency appropriations to Madam Speaker, towards another item in an agency appropriations.
Madam Speaker, Your Honor, in general po, ito pong mga tinatawag nating interagency transfers are legally allowed, no? Pag magkakaroon lang po ng MOA between the two agencies. So basically, yung transfer from Agency 1 to Agency 2, as long as my MOA and the fund source are based on existing funds or existing augmentation funds, pwede pong gawin yon between two agencies, Madam Speaker, Your Honor.
Madam Speaker, sa Konstitusyon, sinasabi na as a general rule, no law shall be passed authorizing any transfer of appropriations. Pero pwedeng ilipat ang savings mula sa isang bahagi ng executive branch patungo sa isa ring ahensya sa ilalim ng executive branch. Basta't malinaw na may item sa General Appropriations Law. Savings lang ang pwedeng i-transfer at hindi regular na pondo ng isang ahensya. Pwede niyo po bang ikumpirma ito?
Madam Speaker, Your Honor, if I understand it from Article 6, Section 25 of the Constitution that you're stating doon sa fund transfer, it relates to the transfer not between agency but between other branches, let's say from the executive to the judiciary to Congress. So yun po ang sinasabi doon sa Article 6 Section 25 ng Saligang Batas. And within the context of the accounting procedures na sinusunod ng government accounting procedures sinusunod ng ating Department of Budget and Management under memorandum circulars and other laws that are the basis of our budgeting. Ito pong interagency transfer ay allowed po ng ating batas. Nangyayari po to hindi lang po ngayon, but in the previous budget proceedings. Meron na pong mga precedents, no? Mga precedents na nangyari. There was interagency transfer using NAMOA po. Madam Speaker, Your Honor.
Madam Speaker, sabi dito, no, sabi ninyo, it is allowed. But, Madam Speaker, wala namang line item ng NTF-ELCAC Secretariat doon sa ano. So, kasi yung wala namang item sa NSC. Pag fund transfer from OP to NSC, wala naman siyang item ng NTF-ELCAC eh. But it was used, no, for the NTF-ELCAC. Paano yun nangyari, Madam Speaker?
Madam Speaker, 1 minute suspension, please.
Session suspended.
Madam Speaker, Your
Session resumed.
by definition po, yung line item ay any program or activity ng isang agency or project. So basically, pag yung activity na yon ay napapaloob sa scope ng agency na yon, ay pwede pong lagyan ng budget, ng gagawa ng transfer as long as there's an MOU or MOA. Yun po. And then, in addition, ang Office of the President po ay meron siyang oversight, no, na PAP, wherein doon pong kukuha or papasok yung budget na yon for NTF-ELCAC. Madam Speaker, Your Honor.
Madam Speaker, Halimbawa po sa DepEd funds for DPWH, Madam Speaker, in the case of some agencies, while it is true that it is already on an ongoing practice, the transfers are warranted by general provisions, special provisions in the annual appropriations. Ibig sabihin, hindi talaga yun, di ba? Hindi naman yun normal. Itong pinapakita kong kaso, ibang-iba kasi walang batayan sa annual appropriations o kahit anumang batas. Madam Speaker, natatanong natin ito dahil bukod sa transfers ng pondo papuntang Office of the Vice President, nagtatransfer din ng Office of the President ng regular na pondo papuntang National Security Council para sa NTF-ELCAC Secretariat. Again, regular funds at hindi savings ang tinransfer. Madam Speaker, ang higit na kakaiba dito, hindi naman agency yung NTF-ELCAC at lalong walang line item sa NSC budget na klarong pumapatungkol dito. Kaya binanggit ito mismo sa COA reports sa Office of the President. Madam Speaker, Mr. Sponsor.
Madam Speaker, may I ask for 1 minute suspension?
Session suspended. Session resumed.
Madam Speaker, Your Honor.
Ang term dyan, release. Kasi pag transfer
In relation to the NTF-ELCAC issue, no, the NTF-ELCAC actually is a convergence project ng ating government. In fact, nag-umpisa ito sa previous administration. So in effect po, wala pong nangyayaring actual transfer, kundi kasi yung budget na nilalaan sa NTF-ELCAC ay nakalodge doon sa mga agencies na sinabi ko kanina like DILG, DA. So ang ginagawa, pag nag-i-implement na ng NTF-ELCAC project sa isang lugar, ay magre-release na lang po ng pondo para doon sa NTF-ELCAC. Madam Speaker, Your Honor.
Yun, Madam Speaker, yung tinatanong ko sa NSC, tapos under NSC, NTF-ELCAC, hindi ba't unauthorized and unlawful expenditure ito?
Madam Speaker, Your Honor, hindi po. Kasi sinasabi ko kanina ay para siyang earmarking because the project, NTF-ELCAC project, is a convergence project ng ating gobyerno for the purpose of yung i-control or i-alleviate yung mga areas that is naging problematic sa peace and order. So based on that, yung mga pondo na nasa mga different agencies because of the convergence, pagdating doon sa isang area, pag nag-approve na ang NTF-ELCAC body, nire-release po yon. So halimbawa, from DILG, magre-release sila. From DA, magre-release sila to fund yung NTF-ELCAC project. Because sa NTF-ELCAC, marami pong klaseng project eh. Merong water project, merong roads, merong, basic social services. So, based doon sa mga projects na na-classify under NTF-ELCAC, doon po kumukuha from the different agencies, Your Honor. Madam Speaker, Your Honor.
Madam Speaker, for the record, Madam Speaker, the Office of the President transferred 100 million to the NSC in 2020, 52.99 million 2021, 19.64 million 2022, a total of 172.63 million in 3 years. All for the expenditures of NTF-ELCAC Secretariat. At dapat maitala na yung transfer noong 2022 ay nangyari sa ilalim ng administrasyon na ni Marcos Jr. Ibig sabihin, ipinagpapatuloy yung gawi mula sa panahon ni dating Pangulong Duterte. Now, Madam Speaker, the question remains, paano naging legal ito, tama at otorisado, gayong nakasaad sa GAA na may bahagi ng pondo ang presidente na para sa NSC o sa partikular, wala kasing nakalagay di ba? So, para sa NTF-ELCAC particular, Madam Speaker. So, wala siyang line item talaga Ang sinasabi niyo po, convergence siya, programa siya, convergence siya, at doon nilalagay yung pero hindi natin alam kung, kaya nga po COA audit ito di ba? As sinasabi, na itong mga transfers na ito, may problema dito, Madam Speaker. Kasi kung titingnan, ang 2022 GAA, Office of the President, walang anumang nakalagay na special provision hinggil sa paglipat ng pondo sa NSC para sa NTF-ELCAC Secretariat. may 4.895 billion for oversight management on national security concerns at posibleng dito kinuha yung pondo pero muli walang klarong nakalagay hinggil sa intensyon ng paglilipat ng pondo. Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, Your Honor, if you look at the structure of our government, sa Executive Department, ang NEC ay nasa office po ng Office of the President. So, yung purpose, yung budget for the NTF-LCAC na nasa Office of the President, ay kumbaga, it's within the same agency. Hindi po siya separate agency. Since NEC is under the Office of the President, Madam Speaker, Your Honor.
Madam Speaker, can the DBM identify how much funds are transferred within and among agencies based merely on a MOA? Kasi yun yung sinasabi niyo, kung under siya, tama ba? Kung under siya sa Office of the President, so therefore pwedeng MOA, Memorandum of Agreement lang, tapos i-transfer na yung pondo, ganon?
Madam Speaker,
Parang
Honor.
kasi, ang worry ko dito, Madam Speaker, walang congressional authorization yun di ba? So parang Office of the President, under doon, pwede niyang ibigay doon sa, ganon, direct di ba? So wala ngang line item yung NTF-LCAC Secretariat pero ganon yung pondo. Office of the President, NSC, tapos to the NTF-LCAC Secretariat. Ganon yung itsura niya.
Madam Speaker, Your Honor, if okay sa inyo po, magsasubmit lang po yung DBM ng mga documents, especially yung mga mention natin ng mga MOA, para at least mas makita nyo po yung mga records ng transfers. Madam Speaker, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Speaker, humingi tayo ng paliwanag dito sa fund transfers dahil hindi pwedeng paikot-ikutin at ipera, padala lang yung pondo mula sa isang hensya patungo sa isa pa na walang klarong legal na batayan at congressional authorization through GAA o kahit saro man lang. Hindi rin po ito pinapahintulutan ng konstitusyon. Milyon-milyon po yung ginagastos para sa NTF-LCAC Secretariat mula noong 2020 at hindi po ito deklarado at nakasulat sa inaaprobahang budget. Kaya malinaw na walang congressional authorization, unlawful expenditure ito, Madam Speaker, at dapat ibalik ng NTF-LCAC Secretariat ang mahigit 170 million na tinanggap nito.
Madam Speaker, Your Honor, if okay po, I'll read the concept of the nature of interagency transfer of funds. The interagency transfer of funds is a mechanism used by the agency to implement programs and projects through memorandum agreement and should be executed and adhered to subject to existing budgeting, accounting, and auditing rules and regulations, even without prior approval from the DBM. From this statement po, makikita natin na malalaman po ng mamayang Pilipino kung saan pumupunta yung mga fund transfers because it's still subject to accounting and auditing rules.
Madam Speaker, saan po nang
if I may
galing
continue,
yung
Madam
pinabasa
Speaker.
ng ating sponsor?
If I may continue,
Is it GAA?
it's
The interagency?
from DBM,
That's
from
your
Executive Order
circular.
number 338.
May we have a copy of that?
Yes, Madam Speaker, Your Honor.
So hindi siya sa GAA? Hindi siya provision sa GAA?
It's an executive order. And sa COA Audit Circular number 94013, if I may, to all heads and departments, bureaus, offices, self-governing boards, commissions, state universities and colleges, chief accountants of accounting units, budget officers, COA auditors, subject rules and regulations in the grant, utilization, liquidation of funds
Mr. Speaker,
transferred to implement.
Madam Speaker, baka maubusan akong oras Can you give that to me na lang, Madam Speaker?
Yes, Madam Speaker.
Nakuha ko naman na yung punto ko. So memorandum of agreement pa rin ang sinasabi nyo at merong circular. Pahingi po ako ng kopya. Yun lang, Madam Speaker, hindi po pwede na maging normal yung budget execution stage. The Congress should really take a look at this and assert its power of the purse. There should be an explicit congressional authorization for agencies to juggle and transfer funds. Lalo na kung ito ay dinadivert sa iba. Lalo na kung wala itong allotment at hindi ito dumadaan sa SARO. milyon-milyon, Madam Speaker, ano? So, yon, Madam Speaker. Sa next question ko po ay kaugnay naman ito sa multibilyong unprogrammed funds. Magkano po ang panukala para sa susunod na taon?
It's a 200, Madam Speaker, Your Honor, if I may, yung unprogrammed, it's 281.9 billion, Madam Speaker, Your Honor.
Madam Speaker, tama bang sabihin na hiwalay itong 281.9 billion? On top ito ng panukalang 5.768 trillion? Na panukalang
Madam Speaker.
pambansang budget?
Yes po, Madam Speaker, Your Honor.
Madam Speaker, sinasabi ng standby appropriations, itong unprogrammed funds. Kumbaga kung balde ito, mapupunan ito kapag may excess tax, non-tax revenues. Halimbawa, excess tariff revenues. Kung may mga bagong tax at non-tax measures, at kung may loans para sa foreign assisted projects. Now, for 2022, lumalabas sa datos ng DBM na 73% ang napunan sa unprogrammed funds, or 183.84 billion out of the 251.63 billion ang nailabas na pondo. Can you confirm this, Madam Speaker?
Tama, 2022 yun. Madam Speaker, 1 minute suspension, please, to confirm the figures.
Session suspended.
Madam Speaker, 1 minute suspension, please, to confirm the figure.
Session suspended.
Madam Speaker.
Session resumed.
Madam Speaker, Your Honor, tama po, 13 billion po.
Para saan yung 13.05 billion? Madam Speaker, yun yung tanong ko.
Ito po,
Na inirelease sa DA Secretary mula sa unprogrammed funds.
Madam Speaker, Your Honor, if I may, pwede ko pong basahin, or if you want a copy para
No, Madam Speaker, basahin niyo po. Kasi
Okay.
yun yung kasunod kong tanong.
to cover the funding requirements for the implementation of RCEF, Rice Farmers Financial Assistance in support to rice farmers affected by the rice tariffication law.
So,
As-
direct cash assistance siya, Madam Speaker.
Tama po, Madam Speaker, Your Honor.
Thank you. My next question, Madam Speaker, ay nagtataka kami dahil kung para naman talaga sa rice farmers itong 13 billion, nakuha na po ba ito? Kasi parang lumalabas na sa support for infrastructure projects and social programs siya or SIP-SIP. Kasi ganun din yung nakalagay doon, 13 billion yung amount
Madam Speaker, Your Honor, na-release po talaga to para doon sa assistance.
So, nakalagay mismo ito sa fund transfers portion ng DA-OSEC sa NEP 2024. Ibig sabihin ba nito, pinadaan sa SIP-SIP yung 13 billion kahit na ibang programa ang SIP-SIP? Madam Speaker?
Madam Speaker, Your Honor, kasama po siya dito sa 13.5 billion. Kasi social program siya ng DA.
Ang punto namin dito, Madam Speaker, dapat hindi dumaan sa SIP-SIP, no? Yung 13 billion para sa direct cash assistance sa rice farmers. Ang problema, Madam Speaker, kung paano naka-phrase yung special provision hinggil dito sa excess revenues from rice tariffs. Kasi sinasabi, pwede siyang ihalo for other purposes. Inulit ang problematic na formulasyon na ito sa 2024 budget na naman, Madam Speaker. Kaya halimbawa, kaya naging sagip, di ba, Madam Speaker, ngayong 2024, kung may 20 billion excess rice tariff revenue sa susunod na taon dahil sa sobra-sobrang importasyon ng bigas, pwedeng bahagi ng 20 billion ay hindi talaga mapunta sa mga magsasaka. Kailangan po nating ayusin ito, Madam Speaker, hindi pwedeng isip-sip, no, yung ayuda na dapat ay para sa magsasaka, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Brosas, you have 2 minutes to wrap up your question.
Madam Speaker, pwede po bang mag-request ng extension since pinagsama po natin ang lump sum and DBM.
Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker,
Ang tinatanong niya,
I move to extend for 5 minutes.
You have another 5 minutes, Honorable Brosas.
Madam Speaker, for this year 2023, nasa 807 billion ang unprogrammed funds. Malayong-malayo ito sa 251 billion noong 2022. Can the good sponsor tell us how much has been released from the unprogrammed funds as of July 2023?
Madam Speaker, Your Honor, as of 2023, as of July, 218.7 billion Madam Speaker, Your Honor. 218.7.
Okay, Madam Speaker, ayon sa DBM website, 184 billion ang nai-release na pondo mula sa unprogrammed funds, no? So yung sinasabi niyo po, tama, 184?
Madam Speaker, Your Honor, as of September 20 pala.
September. May 5.7 billion na na-release sa DSWD mula sa SIPSIP. May listahan po ba kayo ng mga programa na pinagastusan na ito?
Madam Speaker, Your Honor, we have the list. For the interest of time, pwede namin pong ibigay sa inyo.
What
Madam
about
Speaker.
yung 13.18 billion ng NFA? Meron din?
Madam Speaker, yes, meron po.
Okay. Madam Speaker, ang masusapin dito kung paanong may 184 billion released from UA as of July, unprogrammed appropriations, may excess non-tax revenues na ba?
Madam Speaker, Your Honor, yes po, meron. Kasi hindi po pwede ma-release po yung budget sa UA kung walang excess revenues. And DBM is willing to submit yung mga details doon sa source from excess revenues, Madam Speaker, Your Honor.
Yes, ako lang, Madam Speaker, standby pork itong unprogrammed funds na nagkakahalagang para sa ngayong taon, 807 billion at 281 billion sa susunod na taon dahil hindi ito kasama sa regular budget ng agencies at mahirap tuntunin kung paano talaga ito ginastos, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, Your Honor, as I stated a while ago, magsasubmit po ang DBM ng listahan doon po sa mga details ng ating nagamit doon sa unprogrammed appropriations for this year, 2023. Madam Speaker, Your Honor.
Okay, Madam Speaker, last na po, Agenda for Prosperity, Securing a Future-Proof Sustainable Economy, yan ang panukalang budget na tema. Madam Speaker, nakikita kaya natin to sa ating budget, may huge cuts in health, higher education, housing agencies, may hefty increases sa defense, combined proposed budgets ng key social services natin, excluding PhilHealth, DSWD, plus shelter agencies, are still smaller compared to the allocation for the debt interest payments. Madam Speaker, napansin din namin sa budget message, hindi masyado nabanggit yung panukalang pondo sa DND at Public Order and Safety. Minalaki ang sinasabing paggastos sa social services, pero tahimik sadyang hindi binanggit yung malaking pondo ng militar at pulis. May paliwanag po kayo dito?
Madam Speaker, Your Honor, doon po sa Department of Defense na budget ay nakasaad na po yung since the previous administration, ginagawa na po natin yung tinatawag natin na armed forces improvement ng facilities ng mga equipments, especially now that we have a problem in the West Philippine Sea. So tuloy parang continuing appropriations po yung nangyari doon sa modernization program ng ating Armed Forces of the Philippines.
Again, Madam Speaker, pinalobo ang pondo para sa DND, dinagdagan ng halos 29 billion, may 50 billion lump sum para sa AFP modernization program, pinalobo rin ang budget ng DOTR, dinoble pa, pero may mga kaltas sa kalusugan, higher education at pabahay. Mga batayang serbisyo ito na dapat dinadagdagan natin ng pondo, sinasabi na magkakaiba ang cost of inputs, no? Pero ano pa man, paano ipapaliwanag ang kaltas sa DOH, SHED, DSWD, IX, DSUD at NHA, DOLE, DMW. Ito ang mga ahensyang may direktang implikasyon sa mamamayan at sa mga kaltas na ito. Yung kakarampot po na sahod ng mga manggagawa ang kakarga ng dagdag na gastusin at pagpapaospital at iba pang batayang pangangailangan. Hindi po ito agenda for prosperity. Agenda po ito for selective prosperity. Dahilan, at ilan lang ang makikinabang, hindi po ang malawak na mamamayan natin, Madam Speaker. That's the last of my manifestation, Madam Speaker, kaugnay dito sa budget ng lump sum and DBM. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you.
Maraming salamat po, Madam Speaker, Your Honor.
Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move that we recognize the Representative Edsel Lagman from the 1st District of Albay for his interpellation.
The Honorable Edsel Lagman is recognized for his interpellation.
Madam Speaker, I will not consume 30 minutes for my interpellation. But may I suggest that since we have combined DBM with the lump sum, the interpellators should be given at least 40 minutes, 20 minutes for DPM, and another 40 minutes for the lump sum, or at his or her option, she can consume the 40 minutes for just the DBM or the lump sum.
Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move that we suspend session for a few minutes.
Session suspended. Session resumed. Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, the majority agrees the proposal of the Honorable Edsel Lagman.
The Honorable Edsel Lagman, you may continue your interpellation.
Thank you, Majority Leader. Distinguished sponsor, would you please yield to some questions?
Yes, yes, Madam Speaker. Yes, Your Honor.
Madam Speaker, distinguished sponsor, what is the difference between release of funds and transfer of funds?
Madam
Session
Speaker,
resumed.
Madam Speaker, Your Honor. Sa release of funds po, Madam Speaker, Your Honor, itong release of fund means na meron po tayong source of funds and then there's a release of allotment. While doon po sa transfer of funds is in the transfer of funds between agency ay magkakaroon po siya ng memorandum of agreement between the two agencies, Madam Speaker, Your Honor.
In this case, where the Office of the President through the DBM downloaded funds from the contingent fund of the President to the Office of the Vice President for confidential expenses. Was there a memorandum of agreement?
Madam Speaker, Your Honor, if we talk about contingent fund, hindi po siya specifically allocated sa Office of the President because it is part of the entire budget. It's a special purpose fund. It's one of the special purpose fund ng ating budget. So, yung pagbigay po ng pera, it's considered a release. Hindi po siya nakalagay lang, Your Honor.
But we all know that the President is the only one who could approve the release of the contingent fund. And the contingent fund subject that contingent fund for any releases. Would you agree to that statement, distinguished sponsor?
Madam Speaker, Your Honor, I don't agree po with your statement. First of all, if you look at the entire account structure of our national budget, kasama po ang contingent fund. May sarili siyang bahay. We can have an analogy po like sa sarili nating household budget, meron tayong nilalagay na emergency fund na hindi siya attached to a particular office. So itong contingent fund, as the definition is for the purpose of activities na urgent and new, ito po siya ang kukunan. So hindi po siya nakapalagay sa isang opisina. No, it's part of the entire budget po. From the accounting perspective, it's part po of ng entire accounts natin sa buong budget natin sa national government. So hindi po natin masabi na si contingent fund ay pag-aari po ng Office of the President. It's pag-aari po ng national government, Madam Speaker, Your Honor.
Can any other official of the government dip his fingers in the contingent fund?
Madam Speaker, Your Honor, there's a process po for the release of the contingent fund, and the approving officer in the release of the contingent fund is the Office of the President, since he is the highest executive of our country, Madam Speaker, Your Honor.
So, can you please repeat what is the difference between release of funds and transfer of funds?
As I've said a while ago, Madam Speaker, Your Honor, yung release of fund ay meron po siyang fund source. And then there's a release allotment. While the transfer, now especially between two agencies, is it's a process wherein each agency will create a MOA to transfer a particular fund na nandoon sa opisina niya doon po sa kabilang opisina. Madam Speaker, Your Honor.
In other words, Madam Speaker, distinguished sponsor, in transfer of funds, there are two agencies involved. One agency which has the funds, and the other agency to which the funds will be unloaded because it does not have the funds. Is that correct?
That is correct, Madam Speaker, Your Honor.
Okay. So the difference is that with the release of funds, it is an act of DBM to authorize an agency to utilize its funds, to obligate, utilize, and disburse the funds of the GAA. Is that correct?
Madam Speaker, Your Honor, I will qualify po my answer because under the contingent fund, there are
No, I'm not talking about the contingent fund. I am talking in general terms. We will go to the contingent fund later.
Madam Speaker, Your Honor, please repeat your question.
In the release of funds, there is the act of the DBM authorizing an agency to obligate, utilize, and disburse its appropriation as provided for in the General Appropriations Act. Is that correct?
Madam Speaker, Your Honor, tama po.
Tama. In the transfer of funds, one agency has the fund and the other agency has no funds for its activities, so that the agency which has the funds through the DBM would transfer the funds to the recipient agency. Is that correct?
Madam Speaker, Your Honor, hindi po siya correct kasi bawal po yan.
What is correct?
What is correct po, Madam Speaker, Your Honor, is the transfer of fund release to the agency under which the budget is appropriated, and that agency transferred it to an implementing agency allowed under COA rules. Madam Speaker, Your Honor.
Are we just trying to make some imagine difference? Because it is very clear, when you transfer funds, it is from one agency or office which has the allocation and the funds, and this is downloaded to another agency which does not have the funds to pursue its activities. Hindi ba klaro yan?
Madam Speaker, Your Honor, yung pag-release po ng transfer by the DBM from one agency to another ay bawal po yon, Madam Speaker, Your Honor. Ang pwede po is transfer between one agency directly to another agency with a corresponding memorandum agreement, Your Honor, Your Honor, Madam Speaker.
When the DBM issued a SARO in favor of the office of the Vice President, with the funding source coming from the office of the President for utilization of confidential expenses by the office of the President, is not that a transfer of funds?
Madam Speaker, Your Honor, as I've said a while ago, ang contingent fund po ay wala po sa Office of the President. So yung na issue na SARO ng DBM is galing po sa isang source, isang funding source, which is the contingent fund. So hindi po siya specifically galing sa Office of the President, Madam Speaker, Your Honor.
But definitely, from the contingent fund to the office of the Vice President, is it not?
Madam Speaker, Your Honor, there is a release of fund, and this is also contained in a special provision of our GAA that the release of the money from the contingent fund source needs the approval of the Office of the President. Madam Speaker, Your Honor.
Anyway, I don't think we are we have a joinder of issues, but let me go to a layman's example. When a bank depositor instruct his bank to debit his account and remit the funds to the bank of the recipient or payee, is the process not a transfer of funds?
Madam Speaker, Your Honor, under the banking process po ay isang transfer po yon.
Okay.
Madam Speaker, Your Honor.
When a depositor withdraws personally from his account, the bank releases the corresponding amount requested by the depositor, authorize the utilization of the contingent fund for confidential expenses